When Guild Wars 2 launched, they advertised heavily about the fact that there was no formal Trinity, and every class was equally efficient at sustaining themselves, and the content at launch was balanced around this fact. Having a hodgepodge of gear with toughness and vitality, taking blows from champions, and managing dungeons by rotating in and out of combat. That is until people figured out that you could just go full glass cannon and kill the boss before any of these attacks became too much for your party. But that was in 2012. It's 2024 now. And with the launch of Heart of Thorns, the game changed and the days of no Trinity were gone with the release of the Druid specialization and introduction of raids into the game. The meta shifted to a concept of role compression, basically trying to fit all of the supportive aspects onto as few players as possible, ultimately leading us to present day with the trinity of heal support, boon DPS, and full DPS, which has defined how players build our groups for endgame content. This is part one of a three-part series breaking down these roles, what makes them good, bad, and how they are used in the 2024 meta. Fortunately for the 2024 gang, every one of the 9 core professions has an elite specialization that is intended to function as a heal support. Heal Berserker isn't quite released yet. That's coming in February, but it's still on the way. The first thing about healers that you should note is that they are split into 2 categories, primarily based around the 2 most desired boons, quickness and alacrity. When forming a party, your healers are going to be one or the other, and it's going to determine how the rest of your team fits together. This is why in LFG you often see heal roles filled out first when the party is 1 of 10, which makes playing a support the easiest way to get into LFG groups or form your own group. Some of these healers are strong basically everywhere, while others rely on their counterparts, the boon DPS, to cover areas that they lack. These healers might also have special skills that make them especially suited for specific encounters and an outright better choice. Some of these factors are the amount of healing and how it's provided. Is it on demand or is it situational? Is it single target? Is it a large radius? How do they apply their boons in a small or large radius? Can they provide their boons from a distance? What secondary boons do they provide? Do they have revival traits that they can take? These are all considerations when choosing a healer. The current 2024 meta looks something like this. You have your alacrity healers and you have your quickness healers, and then you subdivide these healers based on what secondary boons that they can provide and how they provide their healing, the radius they provide their boons in, and if they have revival traits, which gives us the commonly picked played classes, the niche or uncommon classes, and the directly off meta picks for each position. Does this mean that the healers at the top and the meta are the best? Well, no, because we revert back to our old friend role compression. Many of these specializations have unique aspects that make them unique outside of their ability to provide boons. The best healers in the list certainly have a large amount of flexibility or utility. The Heal Herald has a bubble, the Heal Druid has snares and pushes, the Firebrand has large amounts of stability, the Chronomancer has portals, Scourge has downstate pull and revival modifiers. The preferred healer for a given group is unique to the encounter you are facing. While a cookie cutter setup will most likely work, especially if the mechanics are being handled by other members of the party, choosing the right healer can ensure that your party is covered regardless of what other members play. Another aspect of heal supports that I haven't mentioned yet is tanking. Unless the boss has a special mechanic that fixates onto a chosen player, the tank is selected by a toughness check. Whoever has the most toughness is the default tank for most encounters. The reason for the healer as the tank is once again the result of role compression. Gear sets like Minstrel's gear exist and they give all the necessary stats for an effective healer with the addition of toughness. This makes it ideal for the healer to double as the tank, while the secondary healer will run Harriers for the healing and boon duration stats. Many classes often picked as a heal support have things like blocks on weapon skills, Aegis, or other damage mitigating skills. They can also just heal themselves while healing their group, which makes it easier for the group overall. Pretty much any class can tank. Classes like Engineer can even tank as a DPS. However, for most groups, it is safer and more efficient to let the healer tank and let the DPS unga bunga. Mechanics of a boss are often mitigated by these classes due to their versatility, and often healers that cannot mitigate these mechanics are considered off meta. Access to stability, reflex, or Aegis are often required to clear some encounters, while others might need the ability to clear conditions effectively, provide stun breaks, or provide large amounts of crowd control. If you're choosing to hold down a healer position, be ready to perform raid mechanics, or at least know which utility abilities to bring to allow for an easier clear. The use of healers is different based on the in-game content, with strikes and raids being more or less identical, and fractals being uniquely different. Oftentimes these fractal metas spills over into other group in-game content because it's familiar, and realistically, if you take your average fractal group and just combine them into a single 10-man squad, it'll most likely work for almost every encounter, assuming that the mechanics can be accomplished. The difference is that different traits of the healer position are preferred in fractals. There's a higher reliance on the healer to have CC, stability, and be able to provide all of their primary boons on demand, making classes like Druid, which are reliant on CA, less popular than Firebrand or Herald. Ultimately, it is beneficial to gear and learn multiple heal supports so you can take the best in slot healer for each encounter. While character swapping is not the quickest way to clear entire wings, it can make things significantly easier for inexperienced or training groups. Something as simple as your healer being able to provide stability or perform a mechanic instead of forcing somebody else to, but is especially valuable for maximizing your group's damage and getting consistent clears when relying on pugs to fill the group. At the moment, there are only a few encounters that have high healing checks, and most of them reside in the challenge mode content. By the time you are clearing those encounters, you will likely already have a firm understanding of the group structure and how to form an optimized squad. And that is all you really need to know about the heal support position. I'll be covering boon DPS next and its interaction and dependence on the healer in part 2, which will be releasing soon. So if you're interested in that video, subscribe and check out the community tab for polls. I'll be releasing some individual raid wing guides along with build videos in between these with more explanation based videos. Shout out to all the subscribers and people who drop comments. All you guys make the editing and scripting worth it. So that's it. Stay tuned for part 2 coming soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.